If you're systematizing your business, don't do it because you read the E-Myth or you read it on EOS or you know you need processes. You have to convince me why you want to document your processes and procedures. And you're going to convince me by telling me what's going to be the return on investment.
What if you could be in a situation where you could get free in your business to be able to focus more on creating, having a bigger impact, having a bigger contribution, or focusing on the growth of your business? What would that mean to you? Well, if you're looking for a way to be able to do that, you are going to love this segment today, because just as much as we talk about making sure you've got the right marketing playbook, the right system to run your business, it helps to have a great system to operate your business. Our guest expert today is Adi Klevit, and she helps you build, optimize, and also implement scalable processes, scalable systems, so you can streamline and make things run far more what Joe Polish calls ELF, easy, lucrative, and fun, instead of hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. So your teams can operate more effectively, more efficiently, which then frees you up. So if you're looking for a way to be able to do that, you're going to love. If you don't want those things, by the way, then make sure to tune out and go watch a cartoon or something like that. Anyway, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here, Dan. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I want to dive right into it, right? Because, I know you see it. I know we see it. Systems, processes. Thankfully, I was lucky enough to be mentored early on in my career with Michael Gerber's work, the E-Myth, systems run your business, find good people to run those systems. It just so happens that we in our companies focus on the sales and the marketing operations and processes, where you're able to help clean up the systems and processes for fulfillment and streamlining that. So, and when you do that, here's the financial, because sometimes people don't always connect operations. How's that really going to make me money? And what I see, and I want your view on this, what I see when you streamline operations, here's what happens. You get more upgrades, more upsells, you get higher retention rates, lower attrition, you get more referrals, you get more valuation, more profitability when that happens, right? Because it's a huge maximizer and multiplier. What are some of the common things that you see, Adi, that are some of the big mistakes most people are making when it comes to streamlining or not streamlining their processes for fulfillment?
Excellent question, Dan, and I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to answer, but I wanted to say something about the return on investment. So we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes, but in terms of the return on investment, just fresh in my mind, because I was just speaking to a business owner that, by the way, I met in a conference where I was a speaker, but also Michael Gerber was the keynote speaker. So I got to speak after him. Tough act to follow. It was great. And we had lunch and we spoke all about systems. So it was awesome. And I met his lovely wife and it was great. So that's aside on Michael Gerber. But in terms of the return on investment, that is my biggest thing that I talk to our prospective clients, of course, our clients, entrepreneurs that I talk to, is like, if you're systematizing your business, don't do it because you read the E-Myth or you read it on EOS or you know you need processes. You have to convince me why you want to document your processes and procedures. And you're going to convince me by telling me what's going to be the return on investment. So I was just talking to a business owner, and he's a business broker. He basically sells businesses. And I go like, okay, what's going to be the return on investment for you to systematize your business? Like, why do you want to systematize your business? And he goes, well, because I know I need it. That's what I preach to the business owners that I sell their business, that they need systems. And I know I need it in order to grow and scale. So like, yeah, but how are we going to measure it? And we looked at it and it's like, how he's going to measure it? What he wants more consistent sales of businesses, so more listings. In order to do that, he's a great business development person. He needs the time to go and do business development. He cannot do it right now because he's so involved in the fulfillment. And he also does not feel confident that if he's going to add more listings, that he will be able to fulfill it. You know how it is. So subconsciously, you're going, I'm not going to get more clients because I can't really fulfill. So the return on investment here is, if we give him 10 more hours a week that he can do business development, then that will translate to more leads that he knows how to get and he's very good at. So like in the case when we work on a client, you help clients tremendously in terms of getting them all these leads. Now they have the leads and they can go to you and say, no more, because you're so good and give me so many leads, but I can't really fulfill it. Well, that's a return on investment is right here is that you can actually bring in more leads that will give you the revenue because you know that they can serve it. You can service them. So that's an example as well. It does relate. I mean, the amount of leads that you bring in, you have to then service them. And that's the return on investment because now you can before you couldn't. So you're going to even lose more business. So I just wanted to give that comment because it was very fresh in my mind after having that conversation.
Yeah, we see this too. We can put a link in the notes. We had a client, one of the common questions we ask Adi is, hey, if we helped you double your business, could you handle it? And this particular client, Eric, and he shared his story publicly. He's like, yes, we can handle it. And we literally did that in I forget what it was, 60 days. And we got him to $300,000 a month in recurring revenue. And it imploded his business that we had to hit pause. So the cost of not getting processes in place when we think they are, right? There's never perfect, but not really preparing for it properly. It has a huge cost of inaction, a cost of delay. It's like if we were a restaurant, let's just say in a traditional sense, and we're a McDonald's and we order a McDonald's, pull up to the drive-through, right? We get to the drive-through, I want my Big Mac or fries and so on. And then they say, oh, well, go park over there for the next week. We got to order it because our fulfillment isn't dialed in like that. That nobody would run a business that way. But that in many ways, sometimes subconsciously and even consciously, businesses are doing this without even being aware of it. And you come in and help them identify it, get clarity on it, and also then work to start streamlining it beyond that. Now, for you, Adi, why have you chosen this path versus the other infinite paths that you could have chosen? Why streamlining processes and systems for operations and fulfillment?
My background is I'm an industrial engineer. That's what I chose to do because I like the idea of putting order and organization into businesses, into corporations, businesses. I like figuring out systems, putting things together. It's just something I enjoy doing and I'm good at. So I realized throughout my career, I work at international consulting companies. I work with hundreds and hundreds, small and medium-sized businesses, ran businesses for a client. I started two small businesses on my own before I started this one. And I just got exposed. I'm definitely very exposed to the entrepreneurial world, being in it, consulting others. And I have this ability to simplify things and seeing things for what they are, being able to pinpoint what are the things that need to be fixed and concentrating on those and make a big impact. And I'm very result oriented. So I always ask myself, how are my actions going to affect the bottom line? How are they going to make more money for my clients? How are they going to make their lives better? But not just the business owner, also the entire organization, because our mission is really to create, to document, to optimize, to implement processes and procedures so the business owner can have the freedom that they want, but the team feel empowered and know exactly what they're doing. So they feel that they can do their jobs and understand what they're doing. So it's creating that impact and that organization and that order that is very satisfying. So I always gravitated towards things that allow me to put more organization, more order, and I stumbled across that niche. So that's why I continue with it. I think I like to tell this story that relates to what you asked me in terms of I started this business because I wanted to start my own business. I was working for an international consulting company. I thought, okay, it's now or never. This is a time in my life where it's either I'm going to start my own company and be my own boss, or I'm going to continue working for somebody else. And I said, okay, what do I know how to do best is strategize, is help businesses. So I started as a general business consultant. And then very soon I would tell my clients, you need processes, you need processes, you need processes for the same reason that you were mentioning. It would be week after week and nothing got done. And I saw that that's a problem because they know that they need it, but they can't stop that race or that, okay, I now I'm going to stop and I'm going to document my processes. Who does that? I mean, I don't even do it in my own business. I mean, which I did. And that's why I started growing my business. But there was a point where I go okay, production. I'll do this later. And I go, wait a second, I'm not doing what I'm telling others to do. Maybe I should just stop and do, which I did. I didn't stop. I just figured out how to do it together. But I have a team that helped me. Going back to that point, when I tell people, okay, you have to document your processes and nothing happened, I would ask them, I asked one of them, how about if I just do it for you? wow, really? I said, yeah, let's get it done. And we got it done within a few months. We had everything documented, tripled the business. It was amazing, like the effect that it actually creates. But without it, you can't. And I realized that's a stop. That's part of what I like, is not only to systematize and organize, but also how to identify stops and basically take them out. So there is a flow. So there is, people are doing things and they don't stop by those things. And this was a block. And the block was either lack of time or lack of know-how. So, okay, let's remove that block. Let's provide this service of done it for you, where we can extract the information, very well-trained technical writers write it, extract the videos, the screenshots, everything, and make it professional, and then give it to you. But not only that, then we have very qualified consultants that can make sure that those processes are followed by all. And in between, we also optimize to make sure you have optimum processes. So that's, I know it's a long answer to your question, but that's really what got me there, is my inclination anyway to help to systematize, to bring order, but also seeing the needs. So together it brought about this business that very much enjoy doing, because we help a lot of clients.
And it sounds like, part of that was your own journey, right? When you got real clarity, right? And you committed to it, it tripled your business, right? Mm-hmm. And, as you work now with clients today, I mean, you spoke a little bit about some of the common mistakes. You talk a little bit about why. What's a client example, a short, quick story that you could share with everybody here that's watching or listening, of a client you've worked with that might have commonality to almost any type of business that you've seen, and then, like the before version and then the after version of what happened. And then I've got a couple other really critical follow-up questions.
Sure.
I want to tie in here.
Yeah, I'll give you some examples. So for instance, I'm a client that wanted to sell the business. When we started with him, he didn't even have an idea how we will be able to do that. So we started putting all the systems in place. And the reason why he didn't know how to do it is because he was basically involved with everything. So the business was so dependent on him that there was no way that he can then sell it, because then he felt like the business will collapse. So we put the systems in, we hired a general manager. The general manager knew exactly what to do. He was able to train the general manager, extracted the business owner out of it. He was able to then really be the visionary and put together a strategy on how to increase the sales. So, and then we documented the sales process, and we documented the project management process, and everything was documented, that owner was able to now open another business, a second business, and he got a great offer, and he sold his first business for more than he ever expected, because it wasn't dependent on him. So that's one example. I have another one where it took a very long time to train new employees. It was a very specific business. They actually did medical billing, which you had to know. I mean, it was Medicare and Medicaid, and it just, you have to go into the most minute details, but there was a lot of turnover. So every time you have to train a new rep, it takes weeks, if not months. So every time you lose a rep, you're losing a lot of money. So we actually created this beautiful training manual, and they were able to then also hire offshore people, because there was a manual, although they're remote, they were able to follow it. And it totally transformed the business, where a few years later, they actually ended up selling it to a private equity firm, but it had so much more value because all the processes were there. So it really wasn't dependent on specific employees. So that's an example. I mean, I can go on and on of those examples depending on what you want to accomplish, but the common denominator is that the owner was able to extract themselves from the business, from the day to day, whether they still stay in the business, but really wearing the CEO visionary hat, or just moving away and selling it. And also the team felt empowered. So the whole culture of the organization changed. And also the clients, customers were getting much, much better service, because there was consistency, there is risk mitigation, there is efficiency. So it's also increased. I mean, I can give you many examples of increased profitability because we implemented systems and processes.
So if you're looking for a way to grow your profitability, to get free from the day-to-day, if you're looking for a way to, move from it, you have to be involved in everything where it's dependent on you, then it's time for systems. it's time to get processes in place. And, I want to back up a step before the step. I talk about this idea, a step before the step, quite a bit, especially coming from a sports background, as we got a chance to meet in our gathering a few weeks back.
By the way, I want to give that gathering, that mastermind was amazing, Dan. So the listeners here, they need to find out more about that, because the way that you put events, it's like nothing I experienced before. There are so many activities. I mean, it's alive, right? It's not like sitting there the whole day and listening to somebody. I mean, you got to get up and talk to people and do all these exercises and really think for yourself. And, I had to come up with examples for my own business that I didn't even think about, because you prompted that. It's a learning environment like nothing else. So definitely a big shout out for that. It was amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, with that, right, so the steps before the steps. I have found a lot of people we've met, and again, obviously our processes are related to marketing and selling systems. However, like, I just know how valuable the fulfillment, because if the fulfillment's broken, like, it's the marketing and sales is going to have to stop altogether to get caught up eventually.
But I mean, you're creating demand. That's true, because you're creating the demand. That's where you're creating the demand. And then if you have a good sales process, then it's kind of like a gate. You open the gate and people are flooding in, but then what? Where are they going to sit? It's kind of like you open the stadium and everybody comes in and there are no bleachers and there are no places to sit and there is no food to sell and there is nothing and there's almost no players. So then what are you going to do? Where all these people come in and go like, oh, Dan, what did you promise me? Well, I promised you, I thought, then you go like, what I'm going to do? But that's really the analogy of like, because what you market has to be delivered at some point.
Exactly. And fulfilled. And also not all on the shoulders of the founder, right? So as you have, gone through this journey and helping so many hundreds of people or companies all over the world in the work that you do, Adi, what do you see are a couple, simple steps? Like, what are a few steps that someone could take to start, the path for getting systems, or even in their own heart and mind, defining what a process is? Because I find that a lot of people even get stuck of like, they think of processes very complicated, very elaborate, like, oh my God, I'm going to have to get like the old days, like I'm back from the old days, IBM, like these big, like you have, 14 books for one process, right? Exactly. And it's not that. Like we even tell people with marketing and sales, even if whether they work with us or they don't, is start with like a diagram, like just diagram a process, write it out. And I've been doing this for, 30 years. I draw stick figures and I draw little boxes with arrows, and that's the first start, right? And then it becomes like a half page, and then it might become a page or a 2-page or a 3-page or simple, right? Simple processes get executed. So speak to your definition of a process or a system, number one. And number two would be like, what are a couple simple actionable steps someone could take watching right now to get closer to getting processes or systems in place today that would help them save time, save money, brain power, and probably even a little bit of anxiety in running their business day to day?
100%. And it's a great question, Dan. So the first thing is, just like you said, let's not be afraid of it. Okay. We all have processes in our lives. When you wake up in the morning, you have a process of how you make your coffee, tea, drink water, whatever you do. You don't do something different every single day. Maybe sometimes you want to vary it, which is fine, but you still have your process. And I learned this also from Michael Gerber. He came to me after my talk and he goes, what I found is that if you give people the experience, they will be able to understand it. And he's right. So right now, what I would recommend as the first step is have the experience, recall the experience that you had when you actually executed the process. Going to your car, getting into your car, turning it on, pulling out of your driveway, driving to wherever you're going to go. It's a process. You follow the series of steps, and that's all a process is. It's following predictable series of steps to get from point A to point B. You got to know where point A starts and when point B ends, and then what starts after point B. But that's really all it is. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be this complex situation. It's a series of steps that are repeatable and replicatable, that you're doing it in order not to have to reinvent the wheel every single time. So first of all, just we have to, as you said, to alleviate anxiety, we have to relax with it as well. We have to understand what a process is. The next thing is, and that's an exercise that we do with each one of our new clients, is the why exercise. You have to know why you want processes in place. And it's not because I said so. It's not because Dan said so. It's not because anyone else said so. It's because what is your why? Because if you do not have that, it's not going to push you through this project. And you have to recognize and tell yourself, it's going to be hard. It's going to be at times I want to quit. It doesn't hard like in terms of like, oh, but it's hard because it's easier to go and sell and make money, right? And close the next deal. It's easier to go and talk to people in a networking event if you are, if that's better for you. There are different things that are just better, that you might enjoy better, but you still need to push through to actually have those systems. So if you have your why, then you're going to be able to keep your eye on the mountain. That's really, you have to convince yourself first. You have to have this internal conversation of like, okay, why do I want processes and procedures? And then also look at that why as how it will help you execute your strategy in your business, and why do you owe it to your employees to have that, or to your team to have good processes? What changes are you going to experience? Do you want quicker resolution? Do you want to be clearer? Do you want to make sure that people follow through with what you tell them to follow through? Do you want more accountability in your business? You basically have to work on your own mindset on why you want that process. Then once you have that, then I like what you said is exactly what I said. What you do is, well, before that, you actually find one area that you want to improve. Ask yourself this question. What area in your company, if you had well-documented processes and procedures, will get you the biggest return on investment? And we spoke about return on investment. It doesn't mean always, of course, we want the bottom line to be bigger, better percentage profitability, but what does it mean for you? Maybe the return on investment is an additional 10 hours that you can work on something else. So you define that. But what areas? So let's take, for instance, the example of that business broker I was talking about. It's going to create these processes and procedures. So the answer was, okay, it's the communication to prospective clients, because he needs to sit down and walk me through the entire, like what he does. He has to send hundreds of emails. Some of it is automated, some of it is not, but you have to follow up and all that. That takes hours. Okay, well, let's create a process, and we mapped it from beginning to end. You can use sticky notes. You can use sticky notes on your wall. You can use like something like Miro.com and just do electronic sticky notes, draw it. I like Dan's method of like, the stick figures, you can just buy like, you have a whiteboard and just draw it, whatever it is, just a sequence. Remember, a process is a sequence of steps from point A to point B. Point A is a client, like in this example, a client reaches out, a prospective client. Point B, the client signs up as a client. What are the different things that you actually do in between in order to get there? And when you do that, that exercise alone will alleviate a lot of anxiety and relax you, because you'll go, oh, you know what? It's not that complicated. This is what I do. Okay, good. Then you can figure out what you can give to others, how you can explain it to them. That's the next step. But first of all, just identify. That's the first step.
That is so good. And as you're watching or listening right now, are you getting a lot of value in seeing the power of processes, of systems to free you up, right? To be able to replicate it with others. Like if you just want to stay the technician, you want to stay, a good example of this right now, Adi, is, in the world right now as we are living, and at the time we're doing this, AI has become such a thing. Right. And a lot of people have been, in my opinion, and I don't know what your thoughts would be on this, and as you're watching, I don't know your thoughts, but a lot of people have been distracted by AI. How have they been distracted by AI? Oh, they suddenly went from being a chairman of their business, maybe even a chairman of the board of multiple businesses, and they've got fascinated by AI. It's like a shiny new toy. And, it is fascinating. But then what they have done is essentially they now put a hat on called, I am the AI engineer in my company, right? And now they have this new job title, and they wonder why they don't feel fulfilled. They feel a little bit stressed. They feel anxiety. They've gotten off track. Like, at least we've seen a lot of this. So beware of, that type of syndrome, essentially, which it is, shiny object syndrome for entrepreneurs, right? And even with using AI or any of these things, you can create a roadmap. You can create your process. You can create your blueprint, right? Adi's been talking about how to get order, how to remove the blocks. She's talked about the definition, a new definition of processes that is so much simpler than probably you and I have been led to believe, related to it's just a series of steps sequentially, right? That happens predictably and it's repeatable. Right? She's talked about the number one step to take is get clear on the why you want to process. What's the impact of that for you? What will it give you? What will it do for you? What will it mean for you? Number two is identify. Identify if you had just one new process put in place that would give you the greatest impact if you got it in place. How would that translate for you? And focus there. And then don't make it complicated. Start somewhere. That's the key. Now, Adi, I know we only have a few minutes left here, but like if someone is intrigued by what you're sharing and they, are kind of feel alignment with you, which I don't see how they couldn't, but they feel alignment with you and they want to learn more about you, want to get more involved in some of the work that you're doing, how you help clients, where can people reach you? How can they get in touch with you?
Sure. So LinkedIn. So Adi Klevit, Adiklevit. I'm sure I'm the only Adi Klevit on LinkedIn, so not a problem to find me there. Dan was a guest on my podcast. I have a podcast and we did a great episode and I have a lot of content on LinkedIn, so you can check it out. Definitely there's also a place to book a call if you'd like. Our website, which is bizsuccesscg.com. A lot of content there as well. I love putting content and articles. I write a blog every week. I also publish articles for other magazines, and it's all in our media page on the website. So you can find a lot of information. And if you would like to get a hold of us, of my team right away, 503-662-2911. You can call, text, and get in touch. We'd love to talk to you.
So I want to encourage you, if something here is striking a chord, if you can start to understand how processes and systems can help set you free in your business, that can make you more profitable, make you more productive, streamline things, make it not only better for you, but also better for retention of your team, make it better for retention of your customers, help you get more sales, keep more sales, increase the valuation and profitability. I want to encourage you, go check out Adi's work at bizsuccesscg.com, bizsuccesscg.com. By the way, all the links, all the info here will be in the notes, so you can reference that as well. You can also contact them at 503-662-2911. That's 503-662-2911. Text or phone, either way, get in touch with Adi. Find her on LinkedIn. Check out her resources. She's got a wealth of info that can help you as well. Now, Adi, as we kind of wrap up our segment here, what is something I should have asked you that we didn't get a chance to cover so far?
What will happen if you don't have systems? Well, no, I think each one of our listeners can actually answer that question. Two questions, okay, that come up very frequently. One, my processes are changing. I don't know what my processes are, or they're changing. I do constant improvement. How can I document my processes if they're constantly changing? So that's number one. And how long will it take? That's number two. So let's start with number two, very quick. What I found is the 90-minute rule. If you can't find 90 minutes a week, then we have a problem. Then we shouldn't even talk about processes. We have other problems here. But I really feel that everyone, including myself, can find 90 minutes if it's important enough for us. So that's what I would recommend. Block 90 minutes and start with those 90 minutes and then take it from there. So that's number one. When we do that with our clients, if we're documenting the entire company, it depends on the size of the company. It can take between 6 to 12 months. People go, wow, but guess what? We're going to be done with it, as opposed to you can be 12 months from now and nothing happened.
Right. You have your playbooks. Like that becomes an asset. That becomes helpful because it is repeatable. It's duplicatable. And
absolutely. Again, and the other one about the process improvement, absolutely. We improve our processes daily. I mean, Dan, you improved yours. This morning, I had a conversation with my office manager. We're like, you know what? We're missing something in our process. But, because it's documented instead of just something generic, oh, we should do that. And and then forget about other conversation. It's like, let's pull up the procedure. Oh, step one, bullet number 5, after it, we need to add this and this. Please add it and send it to everybody so they know. Boom, done. So definitely process improvement is part of this whole thing, but you have to have a place where to start with.
Yeah, and it's so simple to modify something once you have, call it the initial template, right? Damaging confession. We just did this with our team, right? Like something we love to have people do is something that's underestimated valuable tool for a business owner to do. Is pick up the phone and call their office like a secret shopper and see how their team answers the phone. Now, depending on the size of business, today's technology, there's all kinds of, different tools that can help mimic this. But just calling and like, for example, if someone calls our office, right, there's a certain way that we have them answer the phone. It's a great day to get a breakthrough, for example. Now, 5 years ago, that was a different intro. Today, it's this, right? As part of our process, it's been updated. Then our team is rotated. But many times, if someone, I'm calling for Phil. And if the person on the other, I don't know who Phil, like it seems like there's misalignment, right? It doesn't look like a professional organ. So it's little things do make a big difference. And something as simple as calling a company's phone number can help expose like what is the quality of your systems? Number one, does the phone get answered 24/7? If you're a bigger business and have bigger goals, bigger scaling abilities, and it doesn't get answered, you might want to look at that. And at least during those off hours, get a answering service, or now you can use AI tech to bridge the gap at after hours, right? But make sure your phone is answered. Don't let it roll to a voicemail because you look like you're about a $30 business, that type of thing. If that's what you want, then by all means do it, right? But little things do make a difference. And to your point, there's constant refinement, but it helps when you have like our sales and marketing, our marketing playbook, right? This has evolved, 150 to 200 times over the last couple decades and probably more, right? There's things that were in here before that are completely obsolete from 10 years ago, or even a year ago, or even 3 months ago, that we remove those things and replace it with the new. But guess what? We have the base template that's here, and now it's much easier to replace, a paragraph or a page versus having to replace or start from scratch. And so wherever you're starting, the key is get started. It can make a tremendous difference.
100%.
One last thing before we go, and thank you for taking just a little bit of extra time as we've gone over here. What would be the action steps that you'd like to see our viewers, our listeners take from our time together today?
So the action steps would be, first of all, find your why. Like, why do you think processes are important? If you think they're not, fine. If you think they're important, then make a list right now. Just take a pen and paper. I know it's kind of like, I have my digital this and digital that, but I still like pen and paper. And so do you, Dan. I mean, it's like whatever you want to take. Yeah, exactly. So write down right now, why do I need processes? And write your reasons. Even if it's 10 reasons, 1 reason, whatever it is, write your reasons and take a look at it and you go, okay, good, I'm doing it. Find the one area that if you had well-documented processes and procedures will get you the biggest return on investment. Write it down right now. And then go, okay, I'm going to just draw a picture of the process, point A, point B, and all the steps in between. Good. You got started on the road to document processes, and now you continue from there, but that's what I would like you to do.
So I encourage you to take action with what Adi has just mentioned. Number one, identify your why. Number two, identify the ROI. Get your why and then estimate your ROI. And number three is start drawing it out and get on the path. And I'm going to throw a plug in for Adi because she does great work. We've opened the door to several introductions with some of our clients as well for the work that she does. If you want to learn more about what she's doing, go to bizsuccesscg.com. That's bizsuccesscg.com, or give her office a call at 503-662-2911. That's 503-662-2911, or find her on LinkedIn. There's plenty of ways you can get in touch with her as we wrap up. So Adi, what would be one last thing you'd like to say before we close?
Well, I want to say thank you very much for having me on this podcast. And I want to also acknowledge Jeremy Wise for introducing us, because that was a great introduction. And I've seen the wins that your clients have and how much you help them and how you get results. I mean, that's the bottom line. And that's why I love working with your clients, is because the results are there. And I always tell my clients, they ask me, well, is it time to to do processes. I said, well, if you are a growing business, yes. If you're a fast growing company, yes, but you have to have your marketing dialed in first, because if you don't have leads, all the nicest, the biggest, the most beautiful systems in the world are unnecessary, because you have to get people in the door. And you're doing a fantastic, fantastic job with that. I was just talking to one of your clients, and they said, yeah, before that I was working with this company and nothing happened. We started working with Dan and his company, and boom, I'm already seeing the results of just a few months. So I'm very grateful for this partnership and this relationship, because I like working with businesses that are successful, and there is no doubt that you are making those businesses even more successful with all the marketing and sales and the help that you are giving them.
Well, the feeling is mutual, right? And from the sales marketing side of things, and then getting their fulfillment and operations dialed in, it helps.
It's a holistic view, right?
To grow exponentially and with a lot less stress. So yeah, I appreciate it. So seize the day. Take action with what Adi has shared with you here today. Number 1, identify your why. Number 2, identify and estimate your ROI. Number 3 is start by at least drawing it out. And then I'm going to add a number 4. Contact Adi and her team to see how they can help you. Check out some of her amazing resources. And there you have it. Take action, seize the day. We'll see you on another episode down the stream. Enjoy your day. Bye for now.